Hey everyone, just a little bit of a heads up for today's podcast. The guest is going to be Joe Bustos, who is the community manager for Monster Hunter as well as Dragon's Dogma on the US side of things. And I understand with the recent trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds that was shown at the PlayStation State of Play, you see a new podcast from me about Monster Hunter featuring one of the community managers, and your expectations might be, oh, Rurikhan's going to be talking about some new information that we really don't know yet. And that is not going to be the case. And I want to make sure to set those expectations straight because I don't want you jumping into the podcast expecting to get brand new information, and then that's not the case. I want you to be aware of what you're getting. The purpose of this conversation was more so to introduce Joe to my community because I hadn't really had a chance to talk with him one-on-one on a podcast setting, with the exception of like the anniversary event, but that was like a lot of us talking about a lot of different topics. And I wanted you guys to get to know a little bit more about Joe, and I also wanted to know a little bit more about Joe, and that was kind of the purpose of today's podcast. Now, tomorrow, which is going to be Summer Game Fest, I'm going to be streaming the whole thing here on the channel. We're going to be getting a brand new trailer for Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm expecting some new gameplay details. Ryozu is going to be on stage with Jeff. There's going to be a lot of new information. That is when we're going to be getting some new info about Monster Hunter Wilds. And then the following week, I'm going to be doing a podcast at some point with both Joe and Jonno, basically diving super deep into all of the things that are going to be revealed at the Summer Game Fest. So I just wanted to set your expectations straight before you jump in expecting something that you're not going to get. But I still hope you guys enjoyed this Monster Hunter banter and will help you pass the time until we actually get the Summer Game Fest, where we're going to be getting some brand new information. But anyways, hope you guys enjoy the podcast, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Shields up, Ironbreakers, and welcome to another episode of the Cons Cast. Today I'm here with Joseph. Is your actual name Joseph Bustos? Because you call
Bustos.
it Bustos. Oh, that's how I pronounce it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like, gun lance. I'm always thinking bust explosions, that type of thing more so. So yeah, but Joe Bustos. He is the community manager for Monster Hunter on the US side of things. So we've spoken before during that event, the anniversary event, which was really cool. Thank you very much for having me over there, by the way. And I wanted to kind of introduce you a little bit to my side of the community. So, tell us a little bit about what you do over there at Capcom US.
Yeah, thanks, Rurikhan. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast today. And hello, everybody. Yeah, my name is Joe, one of the community managers over at Capcom. I've been with the team for about 2 years now, which, I mean, the time has just flown by. But, obviously I manage all of like the social media and the community initiatives on the US side. So I work really closely with Jonno, who I'm sure a lot of you know, and Rurikhan, I know you know him quite well. Uh, I work on Monster Hunter. Also, we recently launched Dragon's Dogma, which you guys all know very familiarly.
Oh my God.
It's been a busy time for us. I joined the team around Sunbreak, and when I joined there, we were just getting started on Dogma, and then, Monster Hunter Wilds was still kind of like a whisper, so now we're here. Dogma's launched. Wilds is, the train is rolling, and I can't believe that it's happened this quickly, but here we are.
You're actually quite fresh with the team. I wasn't exactly sure I reminded exactly when you joined. So I'm assuming that you got tutored a little bit by Yuri, maybe? Because I never got to meet Yuri. Or no?
Yeah. I knew Yuri through, some mutual coworkers that we had. So I actually didn't get to work with him directly as Yuri had left. I just kind of like immediately hopped on. So,
okay.
I do know Yuri a little bit, but, obviously we didn't get to work together, unfortunately. But, he left a lot of, he basically left like a Bible for me to like study. Like, hey, here's all these things. Here's the do's and don'ts. Here's the things that, we've really been pushing for and that are super important. So, I really appreciated that. But, I've worked at other places. I worked at Nintendo for quite a while. So, that was, quite the experience. I got to work with, a pretty similar environment to, working at a Japanese company with Capcom. So got to work on some pretty cool games. So,
interesting.
It kind of led me to Capcom.
So what was kind of like your first job in the industry?
I started on the community side working at 2K. So anytime you say 2K, I think a lot of people are like, oh, did you work on the basketball games or, any of the sports stuff? And no, I actually worked on like the core game side, which is there's like a specific split there of like if you're working on Borderlands or something, or like Mafia. So those are the games I worked on when I started
Oh,
there. And I was,
Borderlands.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. So I started there and I worked there for about a year and a half. And it was pretty crazy time. Like I just got kind of thrown into the fire. I worked on like 7 games in the span of like a very short amount of time.
Holy
Um,
crap. That's a ton. Like I don't know how short that amount of time was, but like 7 games is a lot to keep track of when you're doing if you're doing like the community side of things because you have to learn all the ins and outs of each one of them. It's absolutely insane.
yeah, and I was like completely green, right? Like I didn't even know how like people work in companies and stuff. Like how do people like communicate or like how do you send an email? I didn't know how to do that stuff. So I got thrown to the fire. I'm learning this stuff, and then I think it was as we just launched Mafia 3, which was like a really crazy hectic launch. There's a lot of like pressure in the company on that game to really deliver. Um, and then the lead on that game on the community side, he actually went to go move over to Germany. So they needed somebody to just like kind of step in quickly, and I guess it ended up being me. And I got thrown into the fire even further, where I kind of had to take like lead on that game after it launched. They put me on camera, which there are some old videos of me, maybe like I guess they're like 10 years old now at this point. Um, of
Jesus.
me like hosting some videos with the developers. I'm just like I've never been on camera before, so I'm like learning the stuff on the fly. Yeah, it was an interesting time, but I definitely like I feel like I earned my chops working on all those games and just learning what it was like to launch a AAA game.
I mean, I'm assuming that if you were doing those things on the US side of things, then you would have gone to events like E3 a whole bunch of times.
I think I had started just when I missed the start of that E3. And then the following year, I didn't have a game that I was actively working on, so I didn't get to go to the following E3. So I never went to E3 with
Oh,
2K, but I got to experience it a bit with Nintendo, and that's pretty crazy.
what years? There's actually a chance that we might have crossed each other depending on when you were working at Nintendo because I went to E3 in 2013 and 2015. Those were the 2 times that I got to go to E3. Is absolutely insane.
Yeah. My time with Nintendo was from 18
Oh,
to
okay.
what was it, 2021, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately, we probably didn't cross paths, but
No.
yeah, I was definitely like in the heart of that Switch era, and then with with COVID and everything, it was uh, interesting experience over there. But obviously, I have a lot of like really good friends at the company and really like fond memories. I got to work on some really cool games, so it was a good time.
Yeah, it's like I love the Switch. I thought that that was a fantastic console that they did, and all of the titles that came there, the exclusives and whatnot. I thought that they were really cool. So you probably had a really fun experience there. Interesting. So
Yeah, it was. Oh, go ahead.
no. You go.
Yeah, I something that was just I think like just really unique was I got to I was the lead on Animal Crossing, right? So
Oh
um
my God! During COVID, the one that came out during
yeah,
COVID. Oh my God!
yeah. Just a fascinating project to work on, I think. Absolute roller coaster. We had like really high goals for the game, really high ambition, I think. Like we saw what, the previous game had done on 3DS and we're like, okay, this is the time. This is when this franchise is going to break through. But I don't think we could have imagined it to that point. And then with, all we had all these plans of like doing these different events and then, we went out to PAX and we did this whole like booth experience where like we recreated the game in like booth form, right? And then we come back from that event and we're planning the next one and everyone's like, hey, we all need to go home. We're like, what? Like this thing's like for real. Like we just got to go home. And so all of our events were canceled. Game comes out during COVID, and we're just like, we think we're going to be back in the office like a week later, and that never happens,
Nope.
right? Like we end up, so it's just a crazy time, and the game blew up, and we're just like, man, like we all want to celebrate where we're like at home, and we don't know what's happening, but like. The game just blew up to a scale that like I don't think any of us could have imagined. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I
it
don't
was a
think
very surreal
anybody
time.
I don't think anybody could have expected that because just communities really popped off during the pandemic. Everybody was like, well, I have to be home. I might as well play some video games. And Animal Crossing was definitely one of the ones that I feel benefited a lot from that, which was interesting. And so after all
Yeah,
of
yeah.
that, you joined in with Capcom. Was Sunbreak already out when you joined, or did you still help do some marketing for Sunbreak before release?
I joined right at the end, so it was I think it was May 22. Um, so Sunbreak was just about to launch, like there was a month before launch. So it was pretty hectic, like at the Capcom side. But I feel like I was happy to join on because the game hadn't launched yet, but also I felt a little bad. I was like, I want to contribute more, but I was like, you spend some time like onboarding and all that stuff, and just
Yeah,
like
of
getting to know
course.
people, figure out what your place is. But I felt like I picked up that stuff pretty quickly. But it was cool, like I got to stick around for like all the updates. I got to know Jonno. We worked together super well, and I think we've really hashed out like a really good working relationship. So now we're ready for Wilds, which is
You joined in at around the ending of the marketing cycle for not the ending, the beginning of the marketing cycle for Sunbreak. But had you played Monster Hunter before, or was this kind of like your introduction to the game?
no, I definitely been Monster Hunter. So I had started really around like the Monster Hunter Try area.
Oh
But
my
I think
God, you're a
I've
third
met probably
fleeter.
I've probably mentioned this before, but I bounced off like the
Yeah,
initial
we
initial
all do.
times, right? I think like a lot of people, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I bounced off. I'm like, man, I don't get this. This is kind of tough. I don't really know what I'm doing. It's just a different era, right? Like I don't think my brain was like wired in that way to like really play a game where that required like that kind of complexity and like learning and mastery over the mechanics. So it really wasn't until I would say I gave 3 Ultimate a shot. Played a decent amount but didn't like entirely click, and then it was really with For You where I think it clicked a little bit more for me. um so yeah, I think it was obviously like due to guys like yourself. I'm obviously like I'm a fan of your content and your guides, and guys like Gaijin, who have created
I
some really
mean,
good stuff.
during the For You era, it would have been Gaijin because I couldn't really create that much content for Monster Hunter due to the fact that we had that year gap between the Japanese release and the Western release. And so what would happen is most of the people who are already proficient in Monster Hunter, they would import it. And I was like, bro, I can't even understand this game in English, let alone in Japanese, right? Like I was
Yeah,
already struggling to play the game in English, so it was only
yeah,
during World that I really started popping off and then like going after the but I had played it before. I also started with Try, didn't really work out for me, and then eventually a friend of mine actually went back in time with me and taught me how to play, but in Freedom Unite with I had a Vita and he had a PlayStation Portable, and the stuff actually worked. And I was like, I can't believe that we can do ad hoc between a Vita and a PlayStation Portable, and somehow this is fine and there's no problems. My mind was blown when that happened.
yeah. Man, it's kind of crazy time back then, right? Like where the games weren't launching in like the West on
Yeah,
at the same time as Japan. So you're like waiting a whole year. I think that was like not just with Monster Hunter, but like a lot of different games, like Japanese games, right? And like now the industry is so different where things are coming globally on day one and they're coming on multiple platforms. Like couldn't even imagine Monster Hunter on PC a couple years ago, right? And now here we are. So
oh yeah, like
um,
it was straight up just a console game, and it was kind of the same thing even with the From Software games. If you think about it, how Dark Souls also didn't come out on the PC initially, and there was there was a petition. Then eventually they're like, fine, we'll launch it, and then they launched the game, and it was like 1028 by 768 resolution, and that's the only thing that you can play.
yeah.
It was super weird. People were like, what is this? What are you guys doing? So
Oh
it was
yeah,
a
I
very
remember.
interesting time.
Yeah, I think it needed like a mod, right, to like
Yeah,
even
yeah, yeah.
unlock any of the options, like FPS options and stuff. But I credit Dark Souls coming to PC, games like I mean the original Demon Souls, when
Demon Souls
Dogma
didn't
first
go to
came.
PC though.
Yeah, on PS3 at least.
Yeah.
But when Dogma came to PC, I credit like those games with really opening me up to like an experience like Monster Hunter, where these are tough games. Like they're games that require you to learn. Obviously, like they're RPGs with like big emphasis on like animation priority and again, just like the mastery of it, right? And that was what really like kind of opened my eyes to, games like Monster Hunter, where I really want to spend the time learning, and I want to be part of like that zeitgeist, right? Like the
Yeah.
community is just like super excited about it.
That was super cool timings back then. So what other games are you currently managing at Capcom? You already mentioned that you're doing Dragon's Dogma, which Dragon's Dogma 2 is awesome. I had a blast playing that game. And it seems like there might be something that's going to get announced that this Friday as well, because I've seen you know how Jeff Keighley does that kind of like trailer thing for the Summer Game Fest? And there's a lot of Dragon's Dogma 2 in there. It's almost like 30% of that is like, oh, look at all this Dragon's Dogma stuff. And I was like, damn, you're going hard. So many clips of Dragon's Dogma 2. Being very subtle about it, Jeff, but obviously you can't tell us anything.
Yeah, I'll just temper your expectations and say that's not indicative of anything.
Okay.
And I'll leave it at that. Yeah.
Yeah. But like, what other games are you working on besides Dragon's Dogma and Monster Hunter?
Yeah, so the other title I'm working on right now is Kunitsu-Gami, Path of the Goddess. So,
oh my god,
that's
I'm super hyped for that.
yeah. It's a new property from Capcom. So I don't know if you've ever played Shinsekai Into the Depths. It was on I think Apple Arcade and
No,
Switch.
I did not play that Shinsekai. I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's a pretty small game, but that was from another team at Capcom, and that same team is working on this title. It's a very kind of like, I would say, artsy title to come from a AAA publisher, which
Mm-hmm.
I love. It people always complains like Capcom really relies on its core franchises quite a bit. Monster Hunter, Resident Evil, Street Fighter. But we're actually making something new. New IP, new ideas, really unique, cool art style. So yeah, I'm super excited to work on this title. It's coming this year. Team's working really hard on it, and hopefully we can share more in the near
Yeah.
future.
That looks very very interesting. So since you got to work on Dragon's Dogma 2, I'm curious. What was the team? How did the team feel about the overall vibe that we got for Dragon's Dogma 2 when it released? Because obviously there was the microtransaction stuff and whatnot, and I don't want to dig too deep into that because I already had to make God knows how many videos. But besides that, like the overall reception of the game, which I feel was pretty positive. Except for the whole microtransaction situation. How was the team vibe over that?
Yeah, I think we're really pleased with the response. Obviously, it was really great to see just like everybody exploring the world and just finding different discoveries. And there were so many like viral clips of like Cyclops falling off of cliffs and things like that, and people's like carts just exploding because a griffin attacked it. Right, like we love to see that stuff. So yeah, it was an exciting time. I think you mentioned obviously there are some challenges with the launch, whether that's due to some of the DLC that was available, or some of the performance things, and those are things that we obviously like we listen to and we pay attention to. So I think obviously with all the positivity, one thing I've learned working at different Japanese companies is like we kind of tend to stay like very like in the middle in terms of like response, right? When things are going bad, we're not going to panic. When things are like really great and we're super positive, we're also not going to like just rest on our laurels. I think we continue to steady the ship. So that. I think that's like something that remained with Dogma, right? Like things are good, things are bad, things are we're somewhere in the middle. We kind of just tend to stay steady. So we were obviously super pleased to see the response, and really happy that a lot of that hard work paid off, and super proud of the team. But also, we continue to move on. So yeah, I think that's kind of the best way to put it.
I'll be curious to see where exactly that game is going to go, because you guys were asking very shortly after release, hey, you guys want some DLC? And it's like, yes, we'll have some more of this. That would be nice. Let's have like some updates, kind of like what we have with Monster Hunter right now, right? Just, oh, here's a new monster and here's another one, like, and 2 months later on, here's another one. It's like, that would be great. But I don't know if Dragon's Dogma has that type of budget at this point, because obviously before the launch of this one, it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't really considered a tentpole title, as people say in the industry, and I kind of feel like now it is, or at least I've seen some articles to that effect.
Yeah, I mean, it's been awesome to see like the response. I think we announced we hit 3 million sales recently, which was
That is
like,
really good for Dragon's Dogma, I feel like.
yeah, I mean, I'd say it's like not only the quality of the game, but like years of like Dark Arisen being available on multiple platforms and like at super accessible. So there's just a lot of people who have played that game and want more of it. So, kudos to like the team that has been here before me too, who has like worked really hard to like build that IP off of basically what is like one game. So at least one game in the West. So yeah, it's been awesome to see. As far as like any future content, I can't really
Yeah.
comment on any of that stuff, but the team has been working on various patches and things like that. So I think we just added frame generation to the PC version, so that should help people who have really beefy PCs able to get some extra performance out of that. So yeah.
Yeah. That'll be good. Which of the vocations did you main throughout most of the game?
Warrior for sure. Yeah, I'm a great sword main. I think like I'm like starting to take on this personality where it's like if there's a great sword available in a game, that's what I gotta go with.
Yeah, see, I try to do the same thing about gun lances, but surprisingly enough, not a lot of games have gun lances for some strange reason.
Yeah, I know. It's like what would be the equivalent is like I don't know, like a shotgun in some other game or something. I don't know.
Shotgun or some type of a spear that explodes. Yeah, that'd be good. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, again, not a lot of people do that. We have one of those in Bloodborne, like a like spear gun or whatever. But yeah,
Hmm.
not really a whole lot of games actually do that.
Yeah. Gotta find
So
the closest equivalent.
your main weapon's greatsword. Has it always been greatsword, or have you like dabbled into other weapons before that are kind of like close seconds?
I tend to have a weapon crisis, to be honest. Like if
You
I get
become
bodied by a
indecisive.
monster, yeah, I'm like, oh man, like I'm questioning everything.
You become
But
insecure about it.
yeah. With Rise, the weapons are so different. There's so many different like aspects of their move sets. So I definitely dabbled with other weapons. Switch axe I enjoyed quite a bit, which I hadn't really played too much before that, and then Gunlance, which your guides helped me a lot with that. So thank
Well,
you.
thank you. Yeah, that's the one where I'm like, no, this is my baby. I need to explain every single move, and then you guys update the game and makes the guide like not as good because you'll change like the movement values on some of the weapons. And I was like, damn it, no, this is different.
Gotta redo it.
Yeah, got to do
No,
another one.
they're ever those guides are evergreen, and I know how much you love the bullet barrage. So yeah, I was just like, I gotta try this.
Oh
So
my god,
I
yeah,
got super into
Bullet
Gunlance for a bit.
Barrage. Bullet Barrage is a blast, but I don't believe that Bullet Barrage is going to be on Wilds. I don't think that's going to be a thing. It's too arcadey of a move.
It is a pretty crazy move.
Yeah. So, some of the crazier
And I'll leave
moves
it at
don't.
that.
Yeah. So, some of the crazier moves don't really seem to make their way to the more grounded entries in Monster Hunter. But yeah, because people have already been asking me, "Oh, you think we're gonna get Bullet Barrage?" And I was like, "No, sorry, I don't think that's in the cards. I think we're probably gonna get some really cool stuff, but I don't. I think Bullet Barrage is too exaggerated." And
Hmm.
usually, like if you think about Monster Hunter World, we get more grounded moves in Monster Hunter World. Um,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, obviously, like you can see like kind of the connective tissue with World and like the DNA there.
yeah,
So yeah, I think you're kind of like on the money. Obviously, I actually don't even know. I'm just like you guys. I'm excited to know more.
that'll be interesting to see because like on Friday we're gonna get more news for Wilds. I'm gonna be co-streaming the whole event to check that out because that's the only thing I really care. It was kind of like the state of play. I watched the state of play and I was like, there's a couple of interesting things here. But when Monster came, I was like, wait, what? Monster Hunter on the PlayStation? I was not expecting it at all. I expected a teaser for Summer Game Fest, but it was very surprising to see it on the PlayStation side of things.
Yeah, I think we've been like beating the drum of summer for quite a while. And
Yeah.
I don't think we were technically in summer yet. I
No,
think
we're
it's like
not.
still a couple weeks away.
Yeah. We're not in
Yeah.
summer, technically speaking, which is why, since you guys said big news drop around summer, my expectation was okay, so we'll probably get a teaser around Summer Game Fest, and then they're going to do their own developer diary thing. I want like a big, beefy 30-minute presentation with Ryozu and the team just like talking about the game. That's what I wanted to see. But I guess there's actually going to be a beefy presentation on Summer Game Fest because Ryozu's going to be there.
Yeah, we're kind of like, I think like something that's really important for us is with this last trailer, we really wanted to continue the momentum. I mean, obviously, like SGF is barely a week away from that state of play, so we were like immediately like, let's get people to tune into SGF because like we want to keep that excitement, right? Like everybody's super hyped from state of play, and like you don't even have to wait that much longer. Like from the Game Awards to now, this probably felt like an eternity, and then now you're getting like an overload of information. So yeah, we want to turn on the faucet a little bit.
It did feel like an eternity, and that was actually another one that was super surprising because I was not expecting the game to be at the Game Awards. I mentioned that because that was the actual reveal of Wilds at the Game Awards, and I remember telling people, because everybody was like, oh, it's going to be at the Tokyo Game Show because Ryozu said something about how he missed being at events and how he was going to be at the Tokyo Game Show. So everybody was saying 100% next Monster Hunter gets announced at the Tokyo Game Show, no doubts whatsoever. And me and Gaijin are saying in the podcast, actually, we don't think so, guys. That's not exactly what he said. And everybody's like, no, you guys are wrong. 100% wrong. And then Tokyo Game Show comes around and nothing. And people are like, what the hell is going on? And both me and Gaijin were saying that the Game Awards is what made the most sense. But the reason why it surprised me is because I expected it at the Game Awards. I didn't expect it as the final announcement. Because, usually the final announcement is like, this is our big, heavy-hitting thing. And I was not expecting to see Monster Hunter there because I still kind of see Monster Hunter as a more of a niche game necessarily than something mainstream. But to see it cap off the event, I was like, this is completely insane. This is awesome. What was it like for you?
I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like I think we found out that we were the last game pretty close to the announcement. And it's like, it's crazy to see yourself like your game, on the stage like that as like, you're the marquee thing at the end of this event, right? We were like, oh man, like we are the game, honestly, I think we didn't get to be at the actual event, right? There was a couple of us that were there, but we had to make sure all the good stuff like went out on time. So I think Jonno and I were on a call, which was like at an insane time, like insane hour for him, since the show is like at nighttime in the US.
I know.
And we
I'm well aware of that.
Of course. Yeah, we were on a call together. We're watching the announcement go live. We're starting to push all these trailers. It was crazy, hectic time. But like, I think we had like tears in our eyes. It's like, I hadn't worked on a title where I had worked on it in advance for so long. Like by the time this game comes out, it'll have been a while of like working on it. When I worked at Nintendo, it was kind of like you learn about a game, you're on it for a few months, and you move on to the next thing, right? Because there's so many titles that come out. Whereas like this is a journey. Like to even get to announcement was years, right? Like, so it was a huge moment, and then like seeing the response, everybody's super positive, and they just want to know more about the game. I think it was a pretty emotional moment for the team. I think we're all feeling really good. We're really like patting each other on the back, but I think we know there's like a ton of work to do. But even watching after the announcement, everybody's going back to play World. That was a really good feeling too. Of just like, man.
Oh yeah, because we did
Return
really to World. Yeah, dude, that was so insane the way that Return to World ended up working out. I would have never, even in my wildest dreams, imagined that it was going to break 160K concurrence on PC for a 6-year-old game. Literally, It's not even like one of those things where it's like, well, the game actually released in like December, so technically it's more like 5. No, the game released in January 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like people here on like our sales team and stuff are coming to us and they're like, hey, like what's going on? Like this game is like spiking. We're like, well, we did announce this other thing and we've got all this Return to World stuff going on. So
and It was funny because a lot of content creators that maybe don't really play Monster Hunter, they were like, "Why is this game popping off? Like, what is going on?" And the actual story is that you guys did the trailer for Wilds, but then you just went to Twitter and said, "Hey guys, how about we all played World again?" And people just went ahead and played World. They're like, message received. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, we were like, oh man, like we expected like maybe like some people will jump on board, but like to see it like in that way, it was really crazy, really cool feeling. And that you're even seeing it now. We're not really doing like a huge like return to world like extravaganza in that way right now, but like people are playing the game. We saw like the like player count was really high on Steam, and
Oh yeah, I think it's
crazy.
still
It's
high
crazy.
right now. Like let me actually check real quick, but I think it was like at 80,000 or something like that, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like look, the 24-hour peak is 87,000. It's a 6-year-old game at 87,000 concurrent players on PC alone, because this is again also a multi-platform game that's like on Xbox and PlayStation. It's absolutely bonkers how there are so many people playing it still.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy like how the industry is now, right? Like, obviously there's like AAA games coming out every other week or whatever. But
Yeah, I,
look
I
at
don't think
Fallout, right? Like,
I don't think that's going to be the case for much longer though, because we see studios getting closed left, right, and center. It's pretty
yeah,
insane.
yeah. Yeah, I think you know, f- you just never know what's going to like pop up and
Yeah,
like become hot all of a sudden. Like I was thinking about just like how Fallout, like the show came out, all of a sudden like everybody's playing every Fallout game. Um I think it was like back when The Witcher went out on Netflix, like the game like surged in popularity. So it's just like I think people want to like, all of a sudden there's like a fever pitch about like some franchise or game or whatever. People want to be a part of it. It was cool that like that happened for Monster Hunter. We hope it continues. Obviously, like you create a good game with good replayability. People want to be there. Um, just speaks to like all the work that the team's done, all the updates. Like yeah, there's so much content in there. It's crazy.
yeah, it's been absolutely insane. So we already talked about what your main weapon is, which great sword, very respectable. Because if you had said long sword, we would have had a problem. But what is your favorite monster?
I really love Devil Joe, and not
Ooh, the
just
pickle,
because, yeah, not just because he has my name, but he's just a funny looking guy. He's got like the little like
the T Rex arms.
T Rex arms. It just invades into whatever fight is happening at the time. I don't know. And then I love all like the pickle jokes and like just the memes about Devil Joe. So yeah, obviously like one of my favorites. Um, I have really grown to like Namiel quite a bit.
Oh, Namiel was so awesome. When I first fought her, I was like, oh, this is amazing. And I think that was one of the monsters that didn't get spoiled because you guys have a bad tendency of announcing the whole roster of the game. You're not doing that for Wilds, right? You're not announcing the whole roster, please?
I
Yeah,
don't
no, I
know.
wouldn't know anything about that.
Yeah, Namiel's super cool. I like the theme song is really great. All the like the different sound effects that like have this like marine like underwater vibe. I like to think of it as like a monster that's lived like for hundreds of thousands of years or something in like the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, super super cool fight. I love like seeing original new monsters being added because it's just like how many more like different permutations of like different skeletons of like different monsters can you make, and like they tend to surprise us every time.
I love that. I think a long, long time ago, I was watching some type of interview or whatever where they were talking about the Tetsukabra, and I was like, damn. So they mixed like a frog with, I forget what the other animal was, but they were talking about how they'd mixed a frog with this thing in order to make it still organic. And I was really, really impressed about the whole process because at the end of the day, one of the things that separates Monster Hunter from like your standard boss fight games is just the believability of the monsters and the ecology side of things, which is ridiculously immersive.
Yeah, yeah, that's a huge focus for Monster Hunter Wilds. We have mentioned this in the PlayStation blog, but basically, big goal for the team was like creating this living world, and obviously, I think a lot of people who play World really feel that, but this is like really taking it up to the next level. Really trying to make the hunts feel super dynamic. feel like this is a world that like anything can change on a dime. That like if you weren't in it, if it's like you could believe that it was running, right? So I think hopefully when people get to see more of the game, they'll really feel that like they put a lot of thought into the ecology and like just the way like the different monsters live and like thrive, or maybe even survive in these situations. So it's yeah, should be pretty interesting to see as we show off like a little bit more of like the environments and the world and everything.
Yeah, especially with the dynamic weather situation that's going on there as well, which is pretty friggin' insane with the lightnings and hitting the lightning rods. And I love how the team integrated the Karatnoth's ecology stuff into the way that it works with the rest of the environment. How the males of the herd, they have the long spiky horns, and all the females congregate around them because he acts as the lightning rod that protects the rest of the herd. It's pretty friggin' insane.
Yeah, it's like when they shared those details, I'm like, man, they've really put a lot of thought into this stuff. I'm just like, sometimes like they give us all these details, and I'm like, do you think people would be interested in that? And it's like, no, it's like it really helps,
Oh, 100%.
build this like this world.
I was theorizing that when I first saw them in the Game Awards. When I first saw them in the Game Awards, because you guys gave us a 1 minute trailer, and I made a 48 minute or however long it was analysis of that trailer. And one of the things that I mentioned was I felt like the one with the spikes, he's going to act as a lightning rod to protect the rest of the herd. That's why they kind of like congregate around him. That was my whole thesis around that specific monster and why one of them had spikes. And you even see them get hit by the lightning, and while he's just running around on the sacred, which was one of the things that surprised me about the first trailer, was the fact that the whole trailer, the hunter doesn't get out of the mount.
Yeah, there was a few things that the team was pretty, you know, I would say like not stuck on, but like they really wanted to do in that trailer, which was to almost not show a monster for the entire thing, basically, or to show a main
Ooh.
like monster that you know. So at the end, obviously, you see I think it's Rathlos at the end that just kind of like flies in.
Yeah.
But until then, you don't see anything. So you're like, is this a Monster Hunter game? Like, what am I looking at?
Yeah, with the
So
with
that
the
was like
whole
that's a really
herd.
key part.
The
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
herd, I see the herd, and I was actually coming up with theories like, okay, guys, so here's what's going to be. We're going to have small monsters, large monsters, and medium monsters that are going to come in herds. That was my thing. We're going to have this medium type monster, and then you see the latest trailer, and it's like, no, the Doshiguma is friggin' massive. He's such a big beast. Like, no, that's not a medium monster at all.
yeah. There's like three Doshiguma attacking in like the recent trailer, which is like, how am I gonna get out of this? But I guess like yeah, you'll have to see. But there's like I think like the herd technology in this game, obviously, they put a lot of emphasis into that, being able to just show that many monsters on screen. Um, is something like I don't have an exact number or anything like that, but that's something that they put a big emphasis in to just really again like make that world feel really alive and feel believable. And like the different weather changes and everything, like you'll feel it, right? Like there'll be when it's like nice and sunny, there's going to be a ton of monsters, a huge herd on screen, but then like all of a sudden the area might turn like desolate and there's nothing on screen, right? So like
I
trying to
was
have like that different contrast will be there.
I was actually theorizing, and again, I know that you can't confirm any of this, but my theory for that was that we are going to, the same way that right now in Monster Hunter World we have expeditions, right? So if both of us are in the game, but we're in each in our instance of the world, and you go to one of your expeditions, it might be nighttime, it might be daytime. You might have three monsters, and I go on my side and I have three completely different monsters, and I might have a different type of day, I might have different weather. So basically, expeditions have all of these random things to them whenever you choose to go to a specific locale to kind of keep things fresh. I feel like in this game, it's going to be like that, but for regular quests. So you're just going to go out into the world, and then, oh, here's the monster, and if we both go out into the world at the same time doing the same quest, we're going to have different conditions for the quest. So sometimes we might find it in lightning mode, sometimes we might find it in sunny mode, whatever, and it's going to be a different hunting experience for the both of us, which I think is going to be interesting. And I loved the herd thing where we separate the alpha from the herd. Like that to me, anything that involves preparation to kind of like just split it off from no, it's we just go in here and we kill the monster in that sense. Like, no, you need to prepare, you need to do these things before you start the hunt. All of those preparation aspects of it I find very, very appealing. The more simulation side of things, so to speak. And then when he separates it and the handler just goes, "We are now starting this hunt by order of the guild." I was like, oh, that's so cool. I really, really appreciated
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah, I don't know if like a ton of people got that detail, but that was something that we were hoping people would see in the trailer is the seamless ability to start quests seamlessly. So you head out into the world and the quest might just start in that way, right? It's not like you take it from a quest board quite exactly, and that's how you do every single quest. You can kind of like go out into the world and the quest will start like dynamically without like any loading screens or anything like that. So obviously, it's something we want to show off a little bit more in the future, but
Yeah.
I think you could tell, like with the the jump in technology, right? There's like ability to do that just like seamlessly without like any of these loading screens and all that.
I think one of the reasons that people didn't think it was that special is because right now, if you go into World, right, I can go into an expedition and I can go hunt a monster. But I think that the thing that a lot of people maybe didn't connect is there's a difference between going to an expedition and hunting a monster and actually completing a quest. These are two very different things.
Yeah,
And in Wilds, you're going to be able to complete quests like that, which is very different from just hunting a monster, at least in my opinion. But yeah, I thought it was really cool the way that that went about, and the fact that the handler appears to be more on hands with things as opposed to just, oh, let me go find some food. Because that's what people complain
yeah,
about.
yeah.
The other handlers want to listen. I love the handler in Monster Hunter World, but yeah, not the entire of the community feels the same way. Unfortunately, they're not handler enjoyers.
Oh yeah, I know we've read quite a few of the comments about the handler from World, so yeah, I think people will like Alma quite a bit. Seems like there's really good response already to some of the characters. Yeah, yeah. I think one thing we mentioned is that she's going to be out on the quest with you, so she'll be riding on a sacred also, and being able to help you out. So yeah, yeah, she's definitely going to be like really active in the game and in the story. So
Maybe I can finally have my dream scene. Like it was one of my dream scenes for finishing of the base story of Monster Hunter World. Like that
what was that?
moment when the one of I forget what his name is, the guy with the insect glaive, he gets shot by the laser and then the admiral has to run away. The Xenojiva laser's the guy with the insect glaive,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the admiral has to take him away and your character is left there to fight off. Like my dream thing for that would have been the handler would get really upset over the fact that the guy was shot, and she would jump into the hunt with like a heavy bowgun and so like just like go crazy. I thought that would have been so cool, but nothing like that happened. I was like, oh
Yeah,
man, would have been cool to see the handler in action with a heavy bowgun just go in there
the
and start
handlers.
blasting.
Yeah, just actually OP all along. We had no idea. She's been holding back.
She just gets there and she's Rambo all of a sudden and like just murders Inojiva with no problem.
Oh
That would have
man,
been perfect.
dang. That's more of a Luchika type move, I think,
Oh yeah,
from Rise.
Luchika for sure. I played with Luchika a lot because she was completely insane. The fact that she would just like throw bombs at you, it's like, hey, you're stunned. Let me help.
Yeah, yeah. I love that meme of just like her with the barrel bomb.
With the barrel bomb, just like, oh, let me help.
Yeah, yeah. It's too good. It's too good.
Followers was an interesting thing that actually happened in Sunbreak because initially we only had followers on certain quests, but eventually the team changed that. Do you have any insight on how that decision came about?
Yeah, I'm not sure if it was something that was planned from the start, but I think we had been definitely mentioning to the team how much everybody really loved the characters and loved the follower system. Um, Obviously, I think it's great also if maybe you don't like to play multiplayer. There's definitely a lot of those people who just prefer to hunt solo,
Yeah.
but maybe they want to be able to hunt with the different characters. So it's just another cool way of connecting with the characters. Obviously, like Monster Hunter, we're coming from a place where like the characters didn't even have like official names for quite a while. So um, Rise was like really like the first time where every character was named, and now you're seeing that again with Wild. So we want people to like build these like connections to the characters, obviously. So there's just another way to do it, and I think it turned out really great.
Yeah, I thought the follower system was pretty cool. One of the things that I wish was that I feel like there should have been more. Whenever you have a follower with you, there should be a bit of a downside to it. Like the monster should be stronger. I don't think there was any scaling done for when the followers were around. And I was like, it's kind of like feels a little bit maybe too powerful. I don't know, but that was my only piece of feedback, because I know for a fact that a majority of my community, they loved followers. They were always like, bro, we need to have followers forever in all Monster Hunter games. We need followers. Like everybody loved followers and hanging out and just having some companionship for when they were hunting, because not everybody's going to be playing online, or maybe they're playing at odd hours and whatnot, and there's not people to play with. So people really enjoyed that aspect of it for sure.
Yeah, it's also like, you spend all these time with the characters and the story, and then you beat the game and you head into the end game, and it's like, well, what are you guys up to? I don't know.
We're in town. We're just in town.
We're just hanging out. We're doing our thing. We're hunting, and now you actually get to do stuff with them, which is great. And obviously with Monster Hunter Wilds, I think like something that's an emphasis for the team is like really creating a story that kind of takes you from start to finish. So I think there's I think you can tell already there's like a little bit of emphasis on like creating a little bit more of like a compelling story. So obviously like your character's going to be voiced, and you'll be able to kind of like interact with the different characters in the game, again, who this time are all named. So I think there's a little bit more of like a some effort, and or not effort, but like I think some focus put into that aspect of the game, which hasn't necessarily been like a huge focus in the past. It's kind of more focused on like that traditional Monster Hunter experience.
Yeah, I definitely felt that way, especially with the latest trailer, where you actually see the characters talking about specific things like, oh, we need to find them and whatnot. And I already have like 10 different theories about what they're looking for, who the child is, and all of this other stuff, right? Which I thought was interesting that there was as much focus as there was in the story, because one of the things that happened with World was that people were not particularly happy about the unskippable cutscenes. I'm hoping those are not going to be a thing this time around. Not for me, because I watch all the cutscenes regardless, but it's just like, it kind of sucks when I'm telling people, oh man, you got to play Monster Hunter World, this game's amazing. And then they come back and like, yeah, but what about those unskippable cutscenes? And I can't have my friends in the quest. We have to do this strange thing of leaving the quest and then rejoining midway after the cutscene plays out. So I know that a lot of people were left a little bit like, I don't know about this. So I'm just hoping that the team took those things into consideration, which I assume they did, because you guys are constantly doing all of these feedback forms and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. I know that was something that has been a concern in the past. So obviously, like we try to service that stuff up for the team. So I mean, we try to send like all the feedback that we see, or at least like filter all of the stuff that we see. And the team is like, I would say they're very clued into what's going on. So obviously we can't address everything always.
Yeah.
But I think they really do have their finger on the pulse of like what the community is looking for.
Oh, I'm happy about that. I also want to see like a lot of new events, a lot of new collabs. I want to see some crazy collabs like we had in Monster Hunter World. Like there was some really impressive stuff in there, like the behemoth encounter. I thought that was really cool. Did you ever get around to doing that? You joined in later, so I don't know if you got around to doing that specifically behemoth, because that was. Go ahead.
Yeah, not at Capcom, but I mean, I did play it in World. We actually did it on stream recently, which was I think I carded like right at the end, which was really funny. So I didn't even get to like.
Was it regular behemoth or extremoth?
I think it was just regular behemoth. I don't think we've done extremoth yet.
Oh, dude, you guys got to do extremoth. That was so good. I know. I remember because I had to treat extremoth pretty much like an MMORPG. So I basically had to come up with because it comes from an MMORPG game. So I was like, oh yeah, this 100%. I had to come up with strategies telling people, listen, if you get Charybdis, you got to run away, drop the tornado in a corner, then come back and we fight. And I was playing Sword and Shield with support stuff. So the people in my lobby, they would never need to heal. I was like, don't heal, just deal damage, okay? I'm the healer. You don't need to do anything. I'll heal you. And people would just be like damaging nonstop. It was insane. the way that we ended up doing that. It was really cool. Had a blast doing
Yeah.
Extreme Auth.
Spoken like a true MMO player. I know you're a big FF14 guy, so
Yeah. But it was not just FF14. I used to play WoW back in the day as well. So yeah, I was like, no, we got to come up with the strategy, do the thing. It's all good. But it was really cool. So I think it'd be really awesome if we could have like another collab like that. I think that'd be pretty sweet. Which is also nice because Final Fantasy XIV gets Rathalos as a mount.
yeah. Rathalos has been everywhere.
Yeah.
It's been so many different games. I'm just like, what? Rathalos is in that? I didn't know.
You guys also
we do
announced,
love our collabs though.
you guys also announced recently a new game that I wasn't even aware that was coming out. The little Match 3 game.
Yeah,
mobile game?
puzzle. Yeah, feline adventure. Yeah. So yeah, that's
That's not
Go
the
ahead.
the Timmy Studio game that was announced, was it? So there's another one coming still, or is that the Timmy Studio game? Because I'm a little bit lost.
no, they're different games. So
Okay.
yeah, the Timmy Studio game has yet to be revealed at
Yeah,
this
yeah.
point, but
I know it has been announced,
uh,
but not revealed. Yeah.
yeah. So this is a different game. Obviously, it's a puzzle match 3 type game. So definitely for a different audience.
Yeah.
It
100%.
won't necessarily be for for everybody, but it's a different take on Monster Hunter. So hopefully people check it out.
I mean, if you're playing something like Candy Crush, you might as well play the Monster Hunter version of it. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, play the version with the cats.
Exactly.
Speaking of
with
which,
the Palicos and quests. Go ahead.
how did you feel about the talking Palico?
So that is a very interesting proposition because I feel like the whole idea that the community has always had, and this is an example that I didn't come up with this example. It was people started talking about this example in my stream, which is people always looked at Palicos kind of like the same way as the relationship between Luke Skywalker and R2D2, which is like he makes beeps, but Luke always understands what he's saying. So it's kind of the same thing. He meows and growls, but we can always understand what he's saying. And hearing him speak, I think for a lot of people is like, wait, what? What's going on? And I know that we have Naviru and whatnot. And I don't know, do the other Palicos also speak in stories too? It's been a while since I've played that. They might.
They do, yeah.
Yeah,
Some of them do, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like we've seen it in other games, but I think when they saw it in a mainline game, they were like, wait, why is the Palico talking? And to me, in the trailer initially, I didn't even realize that the Palico was the one talking. I thought there was another character there, or I thought that it was Alma speaking or something when they're walking around near the Karatanoths. And he's like, that one's got a big spike on its back. And I thought that might have been the handler speaking. I didn't even realize it on the first watching. And then it was like, oh no, that's the Palico. Interesting.
Yeah.
So to me personally, I don't have an issue with it. The more voiced characters, the better. I like voiced characters. But I know that the community is very divided among it. And there's like no middle ground. It's either they love it or they really don't like it. So my hope is that there's a setting kind of like we had for the Hunter Barks in Sunbreak, where you can kind of like reduce the percentage of time or something. But except instead of that, it'd be just like a setting meows or talking Palico, right? And so you could have the text and with the meows for the people that don't want to deal with the talking Palico. Now, when it comes to the Hunter, I'm like, no, give me voiced Hunter. I don't care. I don't even care if there's not a setting. A lot of people are like, oh, but I like my silent protagonist, and it's too bad. I really like voice protagonists. I've always preferred voice protagonists. I think that they're more immersive. Hopefully there will be an option for the people that don't like it because more options is always good. But to me, like I always, even with the Hunter Barks and Sunbreak and Rise, I was like, put that to max. Every time he reloads the gun lens, I'm going to punch you full of holes. And I was like, yep, that's right.
Yeah. I think the team over in Japan was asking, about some of the responses, and I think I had said something like, yeah, the voice Palico, I think people are just shocked. Like currently they're shocked. Like I'm not sure if they like it or they don't like it, but either way they said, man, that Palico just talked. Like what?
Yeah, they were
So
very surprised, but again, my recommendation would be have a setting to potentially turn it off and just have meows and growls, which kind of sucks because if you think about it, they're like, oh, but we put all this effort in to voice this character and you want to turn it off. It's really weird, but I do feel like there's going to be a lot of people in the community that don't want that, unfortunately. Which I think it
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, for
sucks because I
sure.
think there will be people that won't even give it a chance. Whereas I think if you were to give it a chance, there would be a lot of people that would actually enjoy it, despite them thinking that they wouldn't. But that's just the way that it is from my experience and what I've seen in the past. So I think the safest move would be to make it a setting, but by default have it on, and then have a setting to potentially
Hmm.
turn it off, so that people at least get exposed to it a little bit, just to see, oh, maybe this isn't so bad as I'm thinking. But I just don't know. I feel like the community is very divided on that.
Yeah. I think in general, obviously a franchise that's been around for a while and has really like had that like really hardcore core community that's super passionate about it. Anything like new can feel a little bit scary.
Yeah.
I think it's, like having the opposite problem is worse, where it's like maybe like your last game had problems and like people just like they want to like fix like certain parts of it, so they're just like, nah, like you guys didn't change enough or like you didn't do enough of that. So I think we're fortunate to like have a franchise where people are like, no, like the series is already so good. Like anything that new that you're adding, it's a little bit scary. It might be a little bit uncomfortable for me. So it's interesting to see those responses where it's like, people aren't sure, like maybe a little skeptical about certain things that we haven't quite explained, or like maybe they want to see more of it or interested. And that could be a little bit scary, but hopefully, everybody trusts the team, and I think they're cooking up some good stuff. So,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I definitely think that the team is going to be delivering on a lot of aspects, particularly after seeing this last trailer. Like, one of the things that really impressed me was the visual fidelity. I wasn't expecting it to be as high as it is, because fundamentally, a lot of times we see trailers and we kind of forget. Wait, we're looking at this trailer, which has been processed through YouTube, which means it already lost tons of quality, and it still
Hmm.
looks very impressive. Like, I can't wait to actually see it in the running natively on a PC. I think that the visuals of the game are going to blow people away. I was very impressed.
Yeah, in the first trailer, right? Like a lot of it is happening like during that like sandstorm, dusty,
Yeah,
like type scenario. So, some it's kind of like hard to see all the details and like the color and everything. So like with this trailer, it's like, man, when it transitions to that like bright, like vibrant, like setting, or like weather setting, like you really see how like the graphics really pop. So, um, yeah, the game is really pretty. But aside from that too, I think it's like, everybody's always talking about graphical fidelity, but like what the team is doing in terms of like just being able to have that many monsters on screen, how like active and like lively it feels. I think it's like that density that's super important. And that was also something with Dogma too, where the team was like really focused on the density of the world rather than just like, sprawl.
yeah. There's a lot of monsters simultaneously coming at you in Dragon's Dogma. That's for sure. The thing to me is also just the impressive animations, like the thing that you guys showcased at the end with the blocking of the mouth with the grates. I was like, oh my god, what is? I think that was the most impressive thing in the whole trailer for me, is how Doshiguma comes in, big mouth, and then block it. Because I'm assuming that every weapon's gonna have like a version of that, and I'm like, okay, with the gun lance version, I'm gonna block it with the shield, then I'm gonna stick the gun lance in there. It's like, it's got to be something like that.
Yeah, that was not a cutscene or like a cinematic or anything like that. So, I can't speak too much on the mechanic, but
Yeah.
there is cool stuff like that happens just in an average fight. So,
Oh yeah, I already have all of my theories. I'm like, this is focus mode. There's going to be a clash thing with focus mode and all of these crazy things. It's going to be pretty friggin' wild, so to speak. So there's also been a lot of callbacks, I feel, to For Ultimate, and obviously you're not going to be able to give me details about that. But considering that For Ultimate was also when you got started, right? For Ultimate to me is still my favorite Monster Hunter story, because we're going on an adventure, right? And we actually get to visit multiple villages, and we go with our ship boat thing majig that gets transformed midway through. And I was like, this is awesome. And that's kind of like the vibe that this trailer is giving as well, I feel.
yeah, I think you can tell based on like some of the team members who have worked on For Ultimate and then also worked on World, and there's this really strong like kind of core team of like directors and producers who worked on these different games. So you can tell like what inspiration they're pulling from, right?
Oh
Like they've
yeah.
worked on past games, like they're passionate about certain things, like different monsters and things like that. They definitely all put their own stamp on it, so you can see it. Like even with Rise and Sunbreak, we had Suzuki-san. I think he was director on Sunbreak, and then he also worked on Frontier, so he was able to bring in, you know,
Espinas.
Espinas. Yeah, sorry, yeah, I was like blanking on the name, but yeah, that was super cool. And he was like, really upfront about like, hey, I worked on Frontier. I love this game. I love this monster. I'm putting in Sunbreak. So
I mean,
you kind of get that, right?
it's been an interesting thing because a lot of people have actually come out during Sunbreak and they're like, "Oh my God, we're gonna get more Frontier monsters." And even now, as this trailer gets announced, I've seen a lot of people in my comment section going like, "Hey, you think we're gonna get more Frontier monsters?" And I was like, "Yep, I think there's a pretty good chance of that." Obviously, I don't know, but it just feels like there's a good chance of us getting more Frontier monsters because of what happened with Sunbreak and the overall positive reception to stuff like Espinas and whatnot.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And then Flaming Espinas also in there. So
Yeah.
yeah, we'll see what monsters end up being. I'll leave it at that. There's not very much
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, we also got the Caravanier's coat on Gemma, which I was like, Caravanier's coat straight up in there, which means we have the best hat in the series also present in that game. We have to, because that's the hat that I always use in my layered armor sets and whatnot. So, yeah, that's definitely
The
going to have to
drip.
be a thing. Yeah, the drip is
I
important.
saw I saw people were going crazy over the default hunter armor, which it's got like a hood and then like the mask that you can like kind of pull down. Yeah, I thought the design of that was super cool. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to see all like the different armor sets and everything. Like we were saying is at this level of graphical fidelity, like even old sets are gonna look really cool. So
Oh yeah, I can't wait to see the Basil Goose set because Basil Goose is 100% confirmed because he's the best monster and we don't pay attention to what happened in the voting of monsters where the B-52 somehow landed in the 52nd spot. Did you notice that?
yeah, it's so crazy.
Basil was the 52nd. It almost seemed by design.
Yeah.
Oh, he's the B-52 bomber, so he lands in 52nd place. I was like, oh, my boy. Look at what they did to my boy. He's like so far.
It was so far from number one, but also very fitting. So I have no
Damn.
idea how it ended up. No, not in terms of quality. You know?
I was like, you're really just slamming my boy down more.
No, not in terms of quality.
No, but yeah, it was a strange spot. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Devil Joe was like 40 or something, and I was like, "What the heck, man? Like, why are you so far back here?"
And it's interesting that Zinogre being a monster that didn't even come to the West in its first appearance in Monster Hunter, he was number one because his first appearance was third portable, I think. If I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
He was the flagship of Third Portable. So Third Portable didn't even officially come to the West, and somehow he was just like still super mega popular, which was really, really cool to see as well.
Yeah, I mean, Zinogre's been in World and Rise, so it's like
People have
a lot of time in the
chance.
spotlight. Yeah. So it was cool to see the number one. I think probably not a surprise to a lot of people. I'm trying to remember. In the U.S., I think we had like Gormagala was one of like the top ones.
It wasn't in Europe. I think it might have been in Europe because I remember me and Gaijin talking about it and how I was saying, oh yeah, Europe's carrying Gormagala into the
yeah, that was pretty cool to see.
There was a place, I think it might have been Japan, where Nergigante took 2 of the 3 top spots. I was like, damn! It was Nergigante and then Ruiner Nergigante.
Yeah. I think that was like globally. Like Nergigante was like number 2, and then Ruiner was number 9 or something.
No. Like I'm talking in one of the regions, he was number 1 and 2, or 1 and 3, or something like that. I forget what region it was. I suspect it was Japan, but I'm not sure. It was either Japan or the US. But yeah, I was like, whoa, that's insane. He just took 2 spots.
Yeah. The world sweep.
Yeah, people really like Nergigante for, I think, his overall theme of being the eater of elders and the whole thing about him restoring balance to nature. I think it was really cool. It was really well done.
Yeah, also super satisfying to fight. I'm also like a fan of, you know, I guess like I'm like a Dragon Ball Z fan, so I like when like the character that's like the smallest character is the strongest.
Oh yeah,
So
he's not very big. True.
yeah, yeah. So there's like way more intimidating elder dragons, but like Nergigante is like kind of like, not
He's the
gigantic. So
underdog. He's the underdog,
yeah,
and his
yeah.
whole thing about like standing still during the Shari Shvalda fight, just waiting for his chance to like get back up and beat the crap out of it. He wasn't messing
Yeah, yeah.
around.
Just waiting, just waiting.
So obviously, as the community manager, you get to go to a bunch of. I mean, obviously this was also during COVID, but you've gotten to go to a bunch of events. What was like your favorite event that you've gotten to go to promote Monster Hunter?
I actually haven't been to too many events,
Oh
unfortunately,
man,
just because, like there
yeah,
wasn't a ton of like physical active events after Sunbreak, with just all the title
we need
updates and
more
everything.
of
So
those. We need physical
yeah, yeah.
events.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I'm really looking forward to the campaign for Wilds, which I know is just going to be like so many events, and it's going to be the long haul, right? Like you look at
Oh,
how
that's
long World was and Rise and Sunbreak. So yeah, we're looking forward to it.
that will be super interesting. I'm very curious to see what the support is going to be like once you guys launch as well. I'm expecting something in line with what we had. Excuse me, with what we had in World. With we're gonna give you a couple of monsters here and there and whatnot, and then obviously an ultimate expansion. Like I'm already looking so far into the future. I'm like, oh yes, look at all this content we're gonna have. I'm super pumped.
Yeah, I mean, you're just like us, right? Like we're gearing up for like all the stuff that's gonna happen post launch and everything. So obviously can't talk about any of it, but like we kind of Monster Hunter's not a series where we just like drop the game and then it's
Yeah,
done, right? So
there's
it's like
gonna be a ton of support. One of the concerns that I have, and I've made sure that put that feedback to Jonno, is that I feel like the community got a little bit they got a little bit frustrated with the amount of what was in microtransactions versus the balance of what was actually in events. That's the one piece of feedback that I always like to bring up. It's like we need that balance to shift more, a little bit more into events and quests and all of that stuff. And, still have microtransactions that I think is important, but, have more things in events, like more weapons in events and whatnot. That I feel was one of the biggest things about Sunbreak and Rise. I feel like the balance was better during World and Iceborne.
hmm yeah, it's something that we have. Obviously, we take a lot of that
Yeah.
feedback back to the team. Like we read so much of it. We want to make sure like that experience of if you're looking at the store and you're looking at all the content and all the free content that's available, that it's like it's a good experience for people. So yeah, we obviously take that stuff back, and we're super mindful of it. So we're always communicating that back to the team. So I know like people have their various thoughts on it, but we do listen to that stuff. So like don't feel like you're
Yeah.
just yelling at a brick wall. So
Yeah, but that'll be cool. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had for now because obviously there's a lot of things that we can't talk about Wilds, but we're also planning on doing another podcast next week after the more reveals that we're going to be getting during Summer Game Fest. So I think that is going to be epic, and we're going to be able to talk about a lot more things, and I'm going to be having a zillion different questions for you and Jonno, which is going to be pretty good time. So is there anything else you'd like to shout out for the Monster Hunter community?
yeah, man, honestly, it's such a great community. Like coming into it like from the work perspective, right? Like it's been super welcoming to come to. Obviously, like everybody just is super passionate about the series. Like I'm very mindful that like this is a series where it wasn't necessarily big here in the West and has really, you know, through efforts like yourself and like just it really feels like it came from like a grassroots like type of like buzz to like build into what it is today. So I think like a lot of that is credit to the community and the people who have like just put so much time and work into like building this community to what it is. So um, it's something that I'm really mindful of. I'm very like fortunate to be like in this position to like have jumped on at this point where the franchise feels really hot and like super exciting. So yeah, we're just trying to do right by the community and do right by you guys, and make sure we represent what the community wants. So yeah, we're excited for everything that's going to come with Wilds, and obviously, the franchise is it's super exciting right now. So yeah, we're really excited about it.
Oh man, I can't wait for Friday. Can't wait for Friday. It's not long now, guys. There's going to be more news, but for now, that is going to be it. If you guys enjoyed today's episode of Cast, do hit that like button, subscribe, bell notification icon, all of that jazz, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay strong, stay safe. Peace out.